was kind of back in live action when I got a call from one of my producers from Iron Giant, asked me to come help Brad Bird put together some story reels for a movie he was pitching to Pixar called The Incredibles. So of course I moved up there, and I've been there ever since. You know, I've done The Incredibles, I worked in the first Cars movie, then I did WALL-E, and now most recently Cars 2. John has always wanted to keep that Cars franchise alive. You know, he knew after the first one was so successful, he kind of always knew he'd want to make another one. And you know, he tells a story of his real first inspirations for Cars 2 was when he was doing press for the first Cars, and he was kind of traveling all over the world, meeting all these people and going to exotic places, and he obviously had Cars on his brain because that's what he was doing, talking about it all the time. And he said he kept envisioning Mater in all these strange places, and how would he act and how would he feel and what kind of, would he be a fool, or, you know, these kind of things. So, you know, those were one of the inspirations for Cars 2, yeah. I certainly approached some of the scenes in a similar fashion to how I approached them in The Incredibles. One of the ways that we kind of did some of the action scenes in Cars 2 is, you know, we have the animators kind of animate their shots long on both ends, give heads and tails on their shots, so then I can get them in editorial and I can slip the action and slide the frames, and then I can find that exact cut point that makes the cut that much better. And we, you know, without having that option, because basically when you give the animators their shots to animate, you have they have a set amount of frames that they need to animate in, or you know, if they were just wildly animating, we'd have a 3-hour movie, you know. So yeah, you do that kind of planning, but on these action scenes, we were able to have them extend their shots. I was able to find the cut point, and it's just sometimes that's the best way to make the scene as dynamic as it can be. So, you know, there's a lot of things you want to try to get right early so that you don't waste too much time in the end, because, you know, the back end of these films is where the real expense comes in. So if you can do some of your experimenting earlier, then it's obviously going to help you in the long run down, you know, when you're trying to finish. The climactic scene towards the end when they're in the Italian city of Porto Corso, and there's the race going on, and we have the bad guy, you know, all the families of all the lemon cars get together, and they see this ultimate the bad guy on the screen, who's basically we follow this photograph of this mysterious engine kind of throughout the spy thread, and we reveal that this is this guy, but we don't yet know who he is. And you know, we were kind of playing the whole scene linearly, and it wasn't working. Like it was just very kind of segmented, and you know, we were telling this story, then this story, then this story. And I just started jumbling the scenes together and started intercutting and going back and forth, and it really kind of ratcheted up the tension. And then, you know, certainly one of the things that I was able to do that kind of brought a little bit of a creepy factor was we were still intercutting, and it just wasn't working the way we thought. And so the voice that was coming from the TV screen, the bad guy, I started playing with pitch on his voice, and I pitched it real low, and I showed it to John, and he loved it, and it kind of just instantly gave it a little more, well, the creep factor. It just kind of it kind of ratcheted up the danger and kind of made him a little more mysterious. So, yeah, those are a couple of the you know, approaches that we took. Many, you know, there's many of them, but yeah, that was a particularly rough, tough kind of scene to get right, and you know, eventually we got there. We've become good friends with a Fox Sports director by the name of Artie Kempner. He does all their NASCAR races in the States, and he does American football too. So he's come to Pixar many times and kind of just told us, you know, how he does things, how he approaches different sporting events. And so we would talk to him and kind of ask him, if you could put a camera anywhere, where would you put it? And then, okay, well, we can do that because we can obviously put a camera anywhere. It's a virtual camera. So there were kind of things like that where we added to the race scenes that kind of make it feel a little more real. And then, the idea of fast camera moves and push-ins and things that, John always wanted to kind of, like I said, he's a big fan of the current spy movies, of the Bourne films and those kind of things that, it's very handheld, very fast. And obviously we don't want to go that far. We don't want it to be like a home movie kind of, all over the place. But a little bit of camera movement can go a long way in our world. So yeah, it was just another one of the tools to kind of bring some impact to it. Well, we're using Avid. We use Avid. All our shows use Avid. We can sometimes use Final Cut to do like certainly films that are in the infant stage of production, or pre-production, in the development stage. A lot of times, if there's a few storyboards to cut, we can use a Final Cut Pro to do that on just maybe a laptop or something. Having the 3D film, it doesn't really change my approach too much. And the big reason why, it's always in the back of my head, this film's going to be in 3D. So there's certain compositions that you have to watch out for. You can't have something too close in the foreground, because then when it's in 3D, it's either going to be very distracting or it's going to disappear, and then it's going to kind of look empty in the foreground. But luckily at Pixar, we have a 3D team that kind of follows right behind our production. So as we're producing the 2D film, the 3D crew is right behind us. So as a shot gets animated or moves down the pipeline, they're able to take a look at that shot. And if they see something that, is maybe not going to work, they'll raise the flag to me and they'll say, hey, can we, open up the composition of this? Can we widen this a little bit or change the camera angle slightly? So there's always that kind of aspect that they're always there to help. These guys are obviously great at what they do. So with that kind of backup behind me, I haven't really changed my approach much. And then also John Lasseter is a very big fan of 3D. So he's always talking about it. So he's always aware of it too. So between all those kind of things, we have a great backup system. And I really, like I said, I really haven't changed the approach at all. Obviously, being the editor, I don't get too involved in the technical side of animating, but I do know that they have what's called a driving system for cars. So they don't have to actually animate the tire rolling the whole time. They can set it on a drive system, and it kind of drives itself. I mean, obviously they have to still animate the body and the face and everything, but they can get it to go slow or fast. They can kind of control the speed at which it drives. And that was something that they invented on the first movie and had to upgrade for the new film. Well, yeah, we're constant. I mean, that's a big thing in animation too, is tracking. We do a lot of database tracking, and luckily I have a team of folks that help me in my editing room. So I don't actually do the tracking. I've got other people that help, but it's the same. It hasn't changed much as far as my approach and my tools. We keep getting upgraded Avid releases, but as far as what I do, I mean, it's pretty. The Avid functions are pretty basic for what we do. We don't add a lot of. We don't build a lot of effects in the Avid. I mean, we do certain things to get a storyboard across. We'll do split screens and do kind of basic Avid effects, but we have people that can create them, so there's no real need to build too much effect, because it just becomes harder to then deconstruct later to actually produce. So we have people that work in After Effects that can give us different camera angle. I mean, that's a big part too, is we have a couple artists that take the storyboards and put them in After Effects, so then we can get actual camera movements early on in the story phase, which then can kind of help the cinematographer down the line. You know, there's certainly you know, a couple touching moments in Cars 2 where first one was when just before Mater infiltrates the casino. You know, he kind of changes his disguise through the all the equipment that he's given by Finn and Holly. He's talking to Finn and in his earpiece, and he kind of is turning to look at his reflection in the glass as Finn's talking about him being the fool, that everyone sees him as a fool, and Finn thinking that it's all an act because he thinks Mater is a spy, and Mater's thinking, wow, people really think I'm a fool, you know, and he's seeing himself for the first time in the reflection. And so that's a really kind of heartfelt moment. And you know, you have to kind of go through that in different stages of you know, we kept extending the scene and letting the animator kind of work her magic of kind of trying to give all the emotion just with the eyes, you know, because that's one of the hard parts about doing a film about cars, is you really have to be, all the expression is in the eyes and maybe a little in the mouth, but they don't have hands to really gesture. And you know, I mean, we can try to like slump their back end, but you know, it's hard to kind of give slump shoulders and make someone look real sad or whatever. So you know, it is difficult, but part of what I do as being the editor is you just have to, it kind of has to be in you to feel when the time is right to cut away or how long to stay on a shot. Part of the problem nowadays is there's so many ways to learn how to edit, but the technical aspects of editing are one thing that you can certainly teach anyone, but the emotional aspects of it are something you kind of have or you don't, or you have to find it within you. And you know, that's something that, you know, I always kind of try to, you know, I'm always asked, how do you do it or whatever, and it's hard to explain because I really, it's something I feel inside. I talk about it a lot, that I cut from the gut, right? It's a gut feeling I have when I should cut away or when I should stay on a shot another 8 or 10 frames, and it's just an instinctual thing that I feel. So it's kind of hard to, that aspect of it is hard to teach, and you know, it shouldn't dissuade anyone from trying to follow their path, and if it's something that they're passionate about, you know, I think you'll be able to find the way to do it within yourself, you know. So yeah, it's a difficult thing. You know, it's hard to kind of teach. I mean, you can teach anybody something to a certain point, but then they have to have that extra ability within them, right? So that's how I approach it. You know, it's all, like I said, cut from the gut. Kind of, you got to feel it.